Pep? Who is Pep?
The best manager in the world.
He changed everything.
I think it's changed how the game is understood, how the game should be played.
For 10 years, Pep Guardiola made Manchester City feel like football's safest bet. Players changed, rivals changed, pressure changed, but City kept returning with the same answer: control the ball, move the opponent, find the gap. Then Pep said the line every empire eventually meets: nothing is eternal. And suddenly, the machine felt human again for the first time ever. Hi, this is Cyrus Fernando with FNTG, From Nothing to Glory, which finds a human side within the story. Pep's story does not really begin in Manchester. It begins in Santpedor, a small town in Catalonia, with a skinny boy who was never built to bully football physically. He was not huge, he was not explosive, he was not the type of player who would crash through pressure, because his body gave him the advantage. So he found another way. He learned to think before the ball arrived. Before pressure reached him, his head was already moving. Before a pass became obvious, he was already shaping his body towards the next space. Before the crowd saw danger, Pep seemed to sense where the match was about to open. That was his survival skill. Some players beat football with pace. Some beat it with strength. Guardiola beat it by living 1 second ahead, and when he entered Barcelona's academy, that instinct became an education. La Masia taught him that football was not just a game of feet. It was a game of positions, distances, angles, and timing. One player's movement could change another player's decision. One simple pass could control an entire attack if the structure around it was right. That idea stayed with him. At Barcelona, Guardiola wore number 4, and that role fit the way his mind works. He played at the base of midfield, where a match can either become calm or start falling apart. He was not always the player making the final pass, and it was not the one everyone waited for in the highlights, but he often decided where the next attack would begin. Then Johan Cruyff arrived and gave him something deeper than instructions. Cruyff gave him a way to see football. The ball could protect you, space could be managed, courage could be organised. A team did not need to chase the match if it was brave enough to control the rhythm of it. Pep became part of Cruyff's Barcelona, but he was also collecting lessons he could carry long after his playing career ended. He learned that control was not about keeping the ball for decoration. It was about moving the opponent until they had to make a mistake. And the more he learned, the more football started to look less like chaos and more like the problem that could be solved. Guardiola had a great Barcelona career, but it did not end like a perfect movie. Injuries came. The years moved quickly. Barcelona changed. He left in 2001 and played elsewhere, but by the end, the centre of his football life had already shifted. For some players, leaving the biggest stage means the story begins to shrink. But for Pep, something else was happening. The most important part of his football life had never been his legs. It was the way he understood the pitch. So when the playing career began to fade, the idea inside him did not fade with it. It was waiting for a different job. In 2007, Guardiola became a coach of Barça B. Because we all know what happened later. That job can feel like destiny. At the time, it was like a test. A player only has to understand the game for himself. A coach has to make other people understand it too, And that is completely different skill. Now Pep had to teach movement, not just make it. He had to correct the young players without losing them. He had to repeat details until they became habits. He had to turn an idea into something a dressing room could actually live inside. Barcelona B won promotion. Then, in 2008, Barcelona made the decision that changed modern football. They gave Guardiola the first team. Today it sounds obvious, but back then it was a gamble. Barcelona had gone 2 seasons without winning a trophy. The squad needed direction, the mood around the club was heavy, and the man chosen to lead the rebuild had only 1 season of senior coaching experience with the reserves. Pep did not arrive acting like a guaranteed saviour. He told supporters he could not promise titles, but he could promise effort, pride, and a team that would fight until the end.
No us prometem que guanyarem algun títol. Ho intentarem i persistirem. Apreteu-vos els cinturons que ens ho passarem bé.
That was the beginning of the empire. Not certainty, not a victory speech, not a young coach announcing he would change football forever. Just a man asking people to trust the work before the proof had arrived. Then the football began, and Barcelona started playing like a team that had discovered the sport's hidden wiring. Guardiola's Barcelona did not win because they had great players and nothing more. They won because those great players were placed inside a world that made sense. Xavi controlled rhythm. Iniesta escaped pressure in spaces that looked closed. Busquets made danger disappear with one touch. Messi became the player no plan could hold for 90 minutes. Around them, the team moved together. They attacked together, they pressed together, they rested with the ball together. And when they lost it, they hunted so quickly that opponents barely had time to breathe. Barcelona won 14 trophies in 4 seasons. In 2009, they won 6 in 1 year. For a while, watching them felt unfair. They were not just beating opponents, they were pulling teams into a version of football they could not process quick enough. The boy who had to think faster than everyone else had built a team that forced the world to think faster too. But football never lets beauty stay untouched. In 2012, Pep left Barcelona. Not because the story had failed, but because even success can drain the person carrying it. Once a team reaches that height, normal winning is no longer enough. Every match has to look right. Every choice is judged like evidence. Every defeat becomes a warning that the magic might be disappearing. Pep had built one of the greatest club teams ever. Then he had to step away from the thing he built. That was the first version of the lesson he would later say out loud. Nothing is eternal. Then there was Bayern Munich. Pep won the Bundesliga in all 3 seasons, added domestic trophies, and made Bayern even more controlled, flexible, and possession heavy. But he had inherited a treble-winning team, so the standard was not normal success. At Bayern, the Champions League mattered most, and 3 straight semi-final exits meant the debate never fully went away. That is why not everyone at Bayern loved his time there. Some still criticise it now, saying his Bayern became too controlled, too experimental, or too different from the direct, ruthless team Jupp Heynckes left behind. Others think that criticism is harsh. Either way, his Bayern chapter was successful, but not universally adored. After Bayern, Guardiola came to Manchester City in 2016, and England greeted him with the question that followed him everywhere. Could his football work here? The Premier League was faster, louder, rougher, and less patient. People said his style needed perfect conditions. And when his first City season ended without a league title, the doubts had room to grow. The goalkeeper role had to change. The fullbacks had to change. The build-up had to change. Even the rhythm of the club had to change. But Pep had not come to England to copy the league. He came to bend it into something City could control. Slowly, they stopped looking like a rich team with good players and started looking like a system with no loose parts. Barcelona felt like a lesson in beauty. Manchester City felt like a lesson in control. Fullbacks moved into midfield, centre-backs stepped forward, goalkeepers became part of the first attack, wingers held the width until defenders hated the size of the pitch, midfielders arrived late in spaces nobody had protected. Then came the trophies: 6 Premier League titles, 4 in a row, and a 100-point season, a Champions League, a treble. For years, City made the hardest league in the world look bland. If you pressed them, they passed around you. If you sat deep, they moved the wall until a crack appeared. If you survived for 80 minutes, they still had one more pattern, one more cutback, one more runner arriving where the danger had just opened. That was Pep's greatest City achievement. He made the impossible feel routine. This is the part a trophy count cannot show. Guardiola built teams that looked inevitable, but he was never inevitable himself. Every season demanded another fix. Every opponent studied him harder. Every assistant who left carried pieces of his thinking into the world. Every year the football he helped shape became harder for him to dominate. That is how empires get attacked. Not only by rivals, but by time. Players age, hunger changes, staff move on. The same message lands differently after 10 years, even if the words are still right. Eventually, every coach who built his life around control has to face the things control cannot solve. So when Guardiola said nothing is eternal, it did not sound like surrender. It sounded like a man who had seen the same truth at every stop. Barcelona ended, Bayern moved on. City will move on too. Even Pep's own energy has a limit, and pretending otherwise could make the story less honest, not more impressive. His career was never only about winning. It was about starting again after the thing he built could no longer stay the same. The boy from San Pedro became Cruyff's student. The midfielder became the coach. The reserve team manager became Barcelona's architect. The Bayern winner became the man who changed English football. Now the City era reaches its hardest question. How does a machine built on control accept that control was never permanent? Pep leaves more than a list of trophies. He leaves habits the sport has absorbed. Goalkeepers joining build-up. Fullbacks moving inside. Centre-backs stepping into midfield. Teams pressing the second they lose the ball. Young coaches teaching space before they teach the pass. That is the real mark. Not that he stayed forever. That after he leaves, football still carries pieces of him. The boy from San Pedro became unforgettable because he studied what others rushed past. He saw the next second, then spent his life helping entire teams see it with him. Nothing is eternal, but some ideas keep moving after the man walks away. So the question is this: what other football empires looked eternal until it didn't? Drop it in your comments. because we read every single comment. Before you go, grab the free Smart Fan Toolkit in the description. It's everything you need to plan your World Cup. It's free and the link is below. And for the tactical side of how Guardiola's system actually works on the pitch, FTG Intel breaks it down. You can click it on your screen right now. I'm Cyrus Fernando, this is FNTG, from nothing to glory, and I'll see you soon.